Okay, so this will be the solution video for momentum conservation. I think I'm going to split it into two because it's only, I think, 18 problems, but some of the write-ups take a little long with these guys, and I kind of need the first set of them today, so that's what I'm going to do. There's number 19 by itself. All right. Okay, let's begin at the beginning. So we have two carts, and they are both initially at rest. They're blocks, not carts, whatever. And so if they're both at rest, then the total momentum is zero because neither one is moving. And if you're not moving, you don't have any momentum. Then there's a coiled spring, and the blocks are released. So we consider this to be what we call an explosion problem. And with these explosion problems, the total momentum equals zero, which means that the momentum of one equals negative the momentum of the other when they are released. We know that P equals mv, so since P equals mv, m1v1 equals negative m2v2. Now they're not moving before the spring is released, so we're not talking before the spring is released, we're talking after the spring is released. So there's the prime on that equation. So yeah, that's the formula for explosion problems. And they're not literally exploding. It's not like some kind of explosive one-off, but it's the same effect. So let's write down the things that we know, and they give us the masses, and then we have to read carefully. It says after the spring is released, the 1.8 kilogram mass moves to the right at 2 meters per second. So if I'm calling the 1.8 kilogram mass m2, then that would be v2 prime. And usually to the right we consider positive, so I'm going to put that 2 meter per second velocity in as positive. So now I'm solving for v1 prime. I end up with 3 meters per second negative, so that would mean it's to the left. They only ask for the speed, so they don't care about the direction. It would be choice 3 meters per second. Next. So here from reading the problem, we have a cannon firing a cannonball. This is another one of those explosion problems where the total momentum is equal to 0. And the two objects, of course, would be the cannonball and the cannon itself. Do we know? Yeah, 1,000 kilogram cannon, 8 kilogram ball. Now, we actually know, we don't know the velocity of the ball when it's fired. We know its momentum. So let's write down what we do know. Okay, so we have all the stuff that we started with, and it gives us the mass of the ball, the mass of the cannon, and the momentum of the ball after it's fired. So I'm going to call that P1 prime. 1 because it's the cannonball, that's the first thing we're talking about. Prime because it's after it's fired. And so number 2 wants to know what is the velocity of the ball after it's fired. Well, I know its momentum and I know its mass, so I can do P equals mv. Okay, I misread the question. It wants the cannon's velocity, not the cannonball's velocity. Let's fix that. And that actually requires a little bit of a different approach because we don't have the momentum of the cannon, we have the momentum of the cannonball. All right, so we're not really looking for v1 prime, we're looking for v2 prime. So v2 prime equals what? Well, here's the kicker. We don't actually know the momentum of the cannon, but we do know the momentum of the cannonball, and we can actually use that. Well, let me explain how we know that. So in a situation like an explosion, the total momentum is 0 because both the cannon and the cannonball are at rest before it fires. So the cannonball has no momentum and neither does the cannon, so their total momentum adds up to 0. Since their total momentum adds up to 0, that means if I subtract P2 to the right side, that means that the momentum of the cannon equals negative the momentum of the cannonball and vice versa. So I do know the momentum of the cannonball, that's 2,400 kilogram meters per second, so I can get the momentum of the cannon. I added in the primes because really we're talking about after the cannon fires, but before the cannon fires, nothing's happening. Everything's at rest. So that's just a bunch of zeros. But we're talking about after, so this is the prime we're considering. Now, the reason why I would want to know the momentum of the cannon after it fires is because I'm looking for the velocity of the cannon after it fires. I'm looking for v2 prime. And I can get that by doing P equals mv. It may not look like P equals mv, but I'm just putting in primes and subscripts, but yeah, that is P equals mv. That's the definition of momentum. So I have negative 2400 equals 1000 v2 prime. So that means my v2 prime, the velocity of the cannon after it fires, is negative 2.4 meters per second. And number 2 is looking for the magnitude of that velocity. That would be 2.4 meters per second. Number 3 wants the direction. Well, for number 3, we know from the problem that the cannonball is traveling east. And we're calling that positive. And since we have the cannon's velocity after it fires as negative 2.4 meters per second, that negative would mean that the cannon rolls west. And here's numbers 2 and 3. All right, let's move on to number 4. So number 4, we're dealing with a collision between two balls A and B. So let's write down the masses and velocities. Before the collision, we have a 5 kilogram ball. That's a heavy ball, going 20 meters per second, collides with ball B, which is unknown mass. We don't know its mass, and it's traveling in the same direction with a velocity of 10 meters per second. So they would be both positive. If I'm calling A positive and then B is in the same direction, I would leave that as positive as well. Also, A is going faster than B, so yeah, they would collide. If it was the other way around, then actually they wouldn't collide. B would just get away. All right, after the collision, our information. And so there were no direction changes. It says that after the collision, A still keeps moving forward at 10 meters per second, slower this time, and B has sped up a little bit, now going 15 meters per second, and it wants us to solve for the mass of ball B. So let's look at the equation for elastic collisions where they bounce off of each other. Usually these collision problems where they bounce off, they kind of like head towards each other and then they bounce back and go into the other direction. But this is a collision where it's almost like a rear end collision where somebody comes up from behind and bumps, and so there is no change in direction. Which is nice because then you don't have to worry about positive and negative velocity. Plug in, and then I like to rewrite without the units because then it helps collect terms. All right, let's get all the MB together and get the other numbers together. So that's what I mean by collect terms. I'd like a positive mass, so I'm going to subtract the 10 MB from both sides. And there we have it. When you work it out, you get 10 kilograms. You have to be very careful with the arithmetic, what you're multiplying, what you're adding, and subtracting. Full disclosure, I actually got this problem wrong twice before actually getting it right. And I know what I'm doing. I just made silly mistakes with the arithmetic. So you just have to be careful, and track it through. But yeah, it's 10 kilograms, choice 3. Okay, so number 5 has two masses and with two different velocity vectors. And it says which vector represents the momentum of the system after they collide. So the system would be the two of those masses together. It's both masses together, so that would be the two momentums together, P1 plus P2. So those are roughly, based on the illustration, those are the two momenta of the two boxes. And if it's the sum of those together, I'm pretty much adding those two vectors. So there's the first momentum right there. And then the other guy going to the left, there's the resultant momentum right there. So looking at the answer choices, I can tell that the bigger momentum is to the right. So the answer would be choice 2 or choice 4, but it's not going to be choice 4 because of the influence of mass B to the left. So it is going to be to the right, but on the short side as it gets cut back. And so 5 is going to be choice 2. All right, number 6, we have a clown in a cannon. This is going to be an explosion problem. So we have the mass of the clown, and we have the mass of the cannon, and we have the forward velocity of the clown from being fired, and we want the recoil velocity of the cannon. So that's just a straight up explosion problem, just solving for the recoil of the cannon. That is 3 meters per second recoils. That's choice 3. So 7, it doesn't seem like it, but 7 is actually an inelastic collision, where the lady is running and she jumps into the boat, and then they move off together as one object. They're colliding and then they stick together, which is a weird way of thinking of it, but the woman is in the boat, and so they count as one mass. So beforehand, so the lady is running, and she has a forward velocity, and then she's going into a boat that is at rest. We'll assume that the boat is maybe tied to the dock. Well, if they move off together, maybe the boat is not tied to the dock. It's just floating in the water. She better hope that the boat doesn't drift away. So then she jumps off of the dock while she's running, and then she jumps into the boat, and then they move off together with that velocity v2. Now, it's going to be less. The velocity is going to have the same direction, first of all. It's not like they're going to change directions. Like if the lady jumps in the boat and they become one, it's not like the boat is going to then drift backwards towards the dock. That makes no sense. Like the momentum of the lady is going to be thrown into the boat, and then they move off together. But momentum will be conserved in the collision. Now, before the lady jumps into the boat, she has momentum, but the boat does not. The boat has no momentum because it's not moving. So she has a certain mv to start. So the total momentum is the momentum of the lady and the momentum of the boat. We just said the momentum of the boat is 0 because it's at rest. So before the jump, that total momentum is the mass of the lady times her velocity. Now that momentum is going to be conserved. So when she jumps into the boat, it's the same momentum number, same as before, equals mv. But here's the kicker. When she jumps into the boat, she now gains the mass of the boat. The system becomes her and the boat. They become one object. So there's a bigger mass, but the momentum is conserved. So if p is held constant and your m increases, mass and velocity are inversely proportional. So that means when the lady jumps into the boat, they'll still move forward, but with a slower speed. So yeah, in the end, for number 7, the answer is choice 3. The velocity v2 of the lady and the boat together will be less than the original running velocity of the lady by herself, so v2 will be less than v1, but it will be in the same direction. I knew this would have to be 2 videos because these momentum guys seem to take a minute. So this one will go up through number 10, so let's do number 8. Okay, so they give the 2 masses of the car and the van, and then they give the velocity of the van traveling at 8 meters per second. It says that the car and the van lock together after the collision, but they come to rest. So I guess they just crash and boom, stop right on the spot, which is unusual, but it's possible. And so it wants to know what was the velocity or the speed of the car right before they collided. So it's a locked together inelastic collision. Let's set up the equation for that. Momentum of the car plus the momentum of the van before the collision. And then they lock. Did my son saying dinner? Get on the video. They lock together so the masses join after the collision, and then we're solving for v prime. I'm sorry, we're not solving for v prime. I'm all distracted here. Where v prime is 0, we're solving for v1, which is the speed of the car before the collision. All right, get rid of the units and do a little bit of math. The right side of the equation drops out because anything times 0 is 0. So we have 1100 v1 plus 20,000 is 0. Subtract 20,000 from both sides. And so we have 1100 v1 equals negative 20,000. Divide both sides by 1100, and that'll give us the initial velocity of the car before it collides with the van. Wind up with 18.2 meters per second. Number 9, we have another inelastic collision where the objects stick together, and it wants to know what's the speed after the collision. This is a really common type of problem. Okay, so we have the two masses. We have the mass of the steel block. We have the mass of the lump of clay. We have the velocity of the steel block. It's at rest. And then we have the velocity of the clay before the collision. And they want to know what's their combined speed after the collision. Also keep in mind, make sure that you read carefully. Since you have two objects, you have two different masses, two different velocities. Make sure that you keep track of your numbers carefully. Like which one is 2, which one is 1. And so you could like totally track this through properly with the correct formulas and everything, but then put the wrong number in the wrong spot, and then you're up a creek. So just be careful. And so the velocity, the combined speed after the fact, is 1.5 meters per second. Here's another example, by the way, of how in an inelastic collision, the velocity afterwards is less than the velocity beforehand of the incoming object. This is like the lady that runs off the dock and jumps into the boat. The velocity decreases because momentum's conserved, and that clay then gloms onto a steel block. The mass increases, the momentum's constant, and so the velocity decreases to compensate. But anyway, let's look at number 10, and that'll be the end of this part 1 of 2 video. So number 10 doesn't look like it actually requires any kind of math, but I'm going to write down the given information anyway, just because it's good practice. Okay, so that's all my given information right there. And so I take a look at my answer choices. It says the total momentum of the frictionless system. So I'm looking at all the momentum together. And I have momentum before the collision because at least one object is moving. That first guy is going 0.5 meters per second to the east. And then I have momentum after the collision because when they move off together, they go at 0.25 meters per second east. So choice 1 says total momentum is 0 before the collision. No, because I have at least one object moving, so momentum is not 0. Total momentum is 0 after the collision. No, because the two objects together move off at 0.25 meters per second, so since they have velocity, they have momentum. So there is momentum both before and after the collision. Now, so we figured that out. Now, it also says that the system is frictionless, so we know if there's no friction, the law of conservation of momentum, I'm kind of squeezing this in until like the last page here, but the law of conservation of momentum says the total P before equals the total momentum after if there is little to no friction, and we do have that it is frictionless. So the answer would be choice 3. The total momentum is the same before and after the collision. So that's choice 3. Alright, so that's it for our first video. Stay tuned for numbers 11 through 19.